So you have your basic 4 steps, but then your secret sauce is that one piece of the technique that really gives it that magic. It really holds it together.
I'm exhausted and I really need something bigger and better in my training right now, or I need some motivation or inspiration. And it's okay for your kids to feel like that too.
How have you guys built that mindset with your kids, knowing that they're going to be on the mats, almost their entire life? How have you built that longevity into their mindset when they train?
I think part of it is not putting a ton of pressure on them about it, knowing that jiu-jitsu is going to happen in waves.
So welcome everyone to another episode of Elvis Type Podcast. As your host. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Mike, and oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot how to say it again. What was it again?
Sheena.
Oh my! I have ADHD,
Sheena
so
of the jungle.
Yeah,
I
am horrible with names. So Sheena, how you doing today? How you guys doing?
Great,
Thank
you.
Awesome. We're good.
Thank you. So, you guys are sitting in your academy right now. Mike, we chatted. I don't know. It was probably about 6 months ago, maybe longer than that. It's crazy how fast time fly. So it's I'm sure there's been a lot of things that has happened lately. I've been paying attention more to after our last chat. I've been paying attention more to your content and because you mentioned last time that the way that you teach is very guided, and then they kind of explore a little bit. Has that changed at all, or have you found anything new in the teaching style? Because I watch your content now, knowing that that's kind of what's in the background going on.
It's I find that it for me is the best format. And so what we're talking about is when I teach a technique, I'll do it the old school way of everybody gather around, let me show you the technique. But generally what we try to do is break it down into 4 primary steps. So I think of every move has 4 steps to it. There's what I call the secret sauce, and so you have your basic 4 steps, but then your secret sauce is that one piece of the technique that really gives it that magic. It really holds it together. The technique would still work without the secret sauce, but you're going to have to probably rely on strength or speed or something like that in place of the secret sauce. So for example, if you're doing an armbar from the guard, for me, the secret sauce is how you pinch the knees around the arm, right? Keeping that arm nice and tight and the leg locked around the head. So if you didn't pinch the knees around the arm, then you're not going to have the same kind of leverage. The arm's not going to be trapped in the same way. You could still do an armbar, but you're going to have to really squeeze it back. So you have your 4 steps, you have your secret sauce, and then once I show the actual technique, then I arrange my students so that they're all in the same, facing the same way. So if we're doing something from the guard, all the guys will be on their back with their head this way and their legs this way. The other person's in the guard. And then I'll simply just walk them through the 4 steps. And that gives everybody a chance to follow along at my command. I can spot right away if something's not right, and I can run over and say, well, that doesn't look right. Let's fix that right now in real time, right, as it's happening. And then we can go through it 4 or 5 times. Then we flip it over. Then the other person goes 4 or 5 times. And then once I feel like they've got the rhythm of the technique, then I have them go and actually practice the technique. Now, the advantage of doing that is I spot all the mistakes early. They're not now in most cases, if you just show the technique and everybody goes and drills, you've got a portion of the class possibly drilling the technique wrong, literally drilling it and building muscle memory in the wrong way. So for me, that format works really good. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, right off the bat, yeah.
And what can you add to that?
Yeah. How do you teach similar to Mike? That was going to be my next question. Is how have you, knowing that, you guys have done jiu-jitsu together, you both have grown together. Do you kind of feed off the way Mike teaches, or are you completely different?
I like to always make sure that I'm honoring the essence, because Mike is my teacher. So I want to make sure that I'm passing that down, not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the way that I was taught it from Mike. I want my students to feel that too. And then I also try to make sure that each individual student is exploring their own body style and their own style in game. So some people are going to compete. Some people want it to be towards self-defense. So I want to make sure that each individual is getting their own needs addressed within that framework of the class. And that's why we really like doing those 4 steps, because it, just like Mike said, you can all start together and then know that you're working on a solid foundation, and then go off on your own and really play.
Now you have a background in martial arts also outside of jiu-jitsu, right? That's how you guys met, was at a martial arts convention, right?
Yeah.
How has, coming from other martial arts, has any of your knowledge from those transferred over to jiu-jitsu and like how you teach, how you approach technique and lead people?
So I really was involved in Muay Thai heavily. I love the idea of taking like the with Muay Thai, like the art of 8 limbs. So not just the punches and the kicks, but now the knees and the elbows, applying that creativity to jujitsu. Like how can we within that one submission turn it into multiple submissions, right? Try to use angular momentum so we're not just always attacking on a linear force. So it's fun to get to play around with those aspects of incorporating it into my martial arts now. But also, I was really afraid to do jujitsu at first because I did come from stand up. So Mike would be like, "Come grapple," and I'd be like, "Maybe," you know. And then like eventually, it was like no gi at first because that was really similar to Muay Thai. It was just kind of on the ground, you know. And then eventually, it was like he got me in a gi, and right, that was like the end of it because I really became addicted to how you can apply the lessons from your other styles of martial arts specifically to your jujitsu. So yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, I would argue, you mentioned too, like for you, like for just a smaller practitioner, that it would say that it even forced you to use like 8 limbs, like on the ground. Yeah. No, literally though, because you're like one of those people who likes to stick their knee up on your head and shit, and find like creative ways to get leverage, which I'm fine with. Like my belief is it's okay to use elbows and knees as long as that's not the submission, but it's okay if that leads to the submission, softens them up. But with you, your elbows are pointing. It definitely feels like a submission.
A straight knife in the side of the face. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna move. It's funny you mentioned that too.
That feels like Muay Thai to me.
It's funny you mentioned that because we have she's now 18 or 19, but she's been training with us since she was like 13 or 14. Riley, and she's a blue belt now. But when we first started, her dad's a cop, so she would use a lot of like forearms and like you would be rolling with her, and all of a sudden you're getting a forearm across the cheekbone or like some sort of like pressure point, and you're like, this little girl is like literally making me feel so uncomfortable right now, and I'm like, what does she want me to do? Like, I'm like she's like a quarter of my size, but those like that forearm across the cheekbone, I'm like, I don't ever want to do this to anyone because I know how bad this hurts.
That's part of the magic trick of it all, right? Understanding those principles, the leverage, the timing, and the technique, and how to make yourself feel stronger than you really are.
Yeah. And I always remind myself, like, if someone's uncomfortable, that's more their problem, not mine. I feel fine. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I was rolling with a new white belt the other day, and this guy's probably, well, he is larger than me, taller and size wise. And I was telling him when I was rolling with him, he's like, I just don't know how to escape out of these, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, man, that's all right. The one way you can always escape a submission is by tapping. So if you're ever in a submission that you don't know how to get out of and you're like nervous, all you have to do is just tap and we just reset. This is all training. Like you don't have to think about like, I saw someone saying, don't always think about winning. And I think it's true to a certain extent. I do think people should want to win, but it shouldn't be their sole focus, especially when they first start, because then you can really get blindsided by failure and be like, well, I'm not good at this. So why am I going to keep training?
No, I totally agree with that. And I think it's okay to tell beginners, like I always say, if you're trapped, tap. Like if you feel like you're in a position that you don't feel safe and you can't get out of, as a white belt, brand new white belt, it's okay to like tap, reassess and figure it out versus like trying to escape something that maybe isn't safe. But then there's going to be a certain point where you're going to have to like learn how to deal with the traps and figure out, why am I in a trap in the first place? Like what happened there in the first place to even end up there? So it's okay to tap if you have to when you're trapped.
Well, we don't want our brain sending us into fight or flight constantly. Yeah. So as a white belt, that's a perfect time to have that self-regulation to tap, right? When we are blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, those same signals aren't going off in our brain, right? That we're in danger. So we're able to play around with our reality a little bit more. But as a white belt, definitely, you got to stay in the game. You're not even going to be able to play it if you're not in it. So, less about the end submission and more about how do I stay in the game? How do I get it to last?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I talk about when we teach moves, like the other aspect of like learning a move, you have your 4 steps and your secret sauce, but then you have what I call the defensive framework. Every move has a defensive framework, so you don't need to know like every submission in jiu-jitsu. But let's say you weren't really great at triangle chokes. Like that's not your forte. You got small legs. You're like, listen, I'm not a triangle guy. But guess what? People are going to triangle you. You don't need to know every setup for a triangle, but you do need to know that when one arm is extended and one arm is retracted inside the legs, that's going to get you in a triangle. And if you just knew that one concept, that one defensive framework, that one arm forward and one arm back is a bad thing, then you could probably actually avoid most triangles, right? So even though you may not as a beginner understand every move, at least start to look for the defensive framework of like, what's the one thing I should not be doing? Like you get caught in an armbar, you're not going to learn an armbar right then and there, but you could learn that like keeping your elbow retracted to your body and treating it like a tether. Like I have a little bit of string right here, and if that string ever breaks, my arm is compromised. If you just knew that, you could avoid arm bars. So understanding that defensive framework, I think, is super helpful for beginners.
When it comes to like conceptual learning or theories and stuff like that, I know some people really focus hard on theories and try to really embed those in their practitioners at an early stage because, like you just mentioned, one arm in, one arm out of the legs is prime example of you're going to get triangled. How do you guys feather in or build in these concepts that are outside of technique, but they apply, in general with your students?
So you have to start in everything that you do. That goes beyond training on the mat. So a great example of that is like, how are you living your life that is conducive to you training in jiu-jitsu, so that when you do step on the mats, you are mentally, emotionally, and physically ready to evolve your training. So that means that as you're in, even when you start warming up, you are doing it in a way that's going to enhance your grappling, that's going to enhance your sparring and your rolling. When you are learning the move, like Mike talked about before, regardless of the presentation, how it's presented to you or how you present it to somebody, you want to individualize it for yourself so you're getting your own specific needs met from that class. So I would highly recommend that whatever you are getting there, whatever submission you have, you include another. If you have a choke, you have a joint lock right there, a joint lock, you have a choke, and then give yourself another wild card. So even if you're only presented with an armbar, you know that you have a triangle and a kimura from your guard anyways, and you're really going to start to heighten your own sense of learning. And then you apply that to your students as well. And it's got to be given in a palpable
Yeah.
version. Are we teaching a class of white belts? Or are we teaching, an advanced class, right? So that's going to be a little bit different in how we present the teachings, but we want everybody to have that experience where they're feeling like, this is just for me, and this is why jiu-jitsu is so amazing, and I can do this for the longevity of my life because I am catering it to me. But also, we can do this in a group setting because we're all understanding the generals, but we're getting specific with our own personal details that we need too.
No, and totally. And I think like because jiu-jitsu is so adaptable to your body style, and it's actually, as you know, like as you get up to like that blue belt, purple belt level, and you develop that sense of identity, like what am I going to be good at in jiu-jitsu? What am I going to speak fluently in jiu-jitsu with? For me, it's like I like triangle chokes. If you're going to be a good triangle, that's great. But if you're a teacher like me who's a triangler and I got a classroom full of short people, tall people, big people, small people, and everything else in between, then I know as an instructor that I've got to adapt my classroom to that technique. So I've got to show that technique in a way that like everybody in the room can feel taken care of and get that move down. Maybe it's not like you're doing the triangle per se, but you're going to be doing the defense of the triangle because you're not like a great triangler. You're not built for that necessarily, but maybe we could use it as a trap to set up an omoplata and we don't actually cut the angle on it so we don't get our guard pass. Or maybe you're just going to work on the defensive framework and you're just going to do the defensive side of the triangle. So I think as a good instructor will adapt the technique for the entire class for them and not leave it in their hands to try to figure it out. Some of that you can figure out, but it's easier if I can say, well, I've seen this and I've seen this and I've seen this, and I can help you in that way.
Yeah, I think that's a a good point. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have heard about ecological dynamics in jiu-jitsu right now, and it's one big buzzword and stuff like that. And a lot of what you say goes against what a lot of them say. So it's interesting because I feel like coaching is coaching, right? If you are delivering a product to your students and they are receiving it and learning, then I think that's good, right? Because not
Right.
everyone wants to be rolling hard every single day or doing live rounds the entire time. And that I
Yeah.
tried coaching like eco a little bit when I was coaching the beginners class. And they enjoyed it, but you have to read the room. If everyone's already exhausted because they just started jujitsu, then it's kind of hard to
Yeah. And you're
keep them rolling.
right. And so the ecological approach is that like you're allowing people to like figure it out kind of on their own to a certain degree. Like the instructor steps back and allows them. And that's good to a certain degree. But let's apply that same principle to swimming as a
Yeah.
lifeguard or as a swim instructor. All right, everybody get in the pool. I'm going to go over here on the side and I want you guys to swim. Go ahead and swim. What's going to happen? Some natural people will figure it out. Some people will die. We will lose a few. But that's okay because we'll have two or three, maybe one good swimmers. So that's the downside of it, right? Is there's as a school owner, like, I want everybody to stick with jujitsu. I want everybody to do it for the long haul because I see the value for them in the long run. If they become a black belt, I know that that's going to change their life. They become a brown belt, that's going to change their life, so forth. So, right. So, but I have to, at the very beginning stages, I've got to like monitor that and I've got to control the scenarios to a certain degree and then give them some room to grow and try it on their own. It's like if you're teaching, we have teenagers and if they're learning how to drive, like we've got to give them all the skill set so that we can eventually give them enough room that they can drive. But if we're not giving them the right skill sets, right, we're going to have a wrecked car and someone's going to, someone's life could be at risk. And it's the same thing on the mats too, because we're playing with chokes and arm bars and, we have people of all different backgrounds starting jiu-jitsu. You might have somebody who hasn't exercised in 30 years. So do you really want them to kind of figure it out? I don't know.
Well, and like we chatted about earlier, there's more than just a physical component to this art, right? There is a lot of emotional and psychological stuff that we work through on the mats when we're training. So if you're teaching the approach and you're given the approach that it's kind of like every man for himself, figure it out, go. That absolutely is going to have a certain peak. And then what's going to happen to these practitioners in 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years when they're in their 40s and their 50s and their hormones and their testosterone is all out of whack and completely out of balance, and they can't train jujitsu, let alone live a healthy lifestyle. So it's like, we need to think about as people who are representing this, doing it in a fashion that's going to be sustainable for the type of life and the type of training that we want to do. We don't want to like have, hip replacements and knee surgeries and, I busted my shoulder and everything else just in training jujitsu, right? That's not the point. And that's going to really affect our training.
So like anything, I think there's a balance there.
Yeah.
But I think it's like giving people the right kind of boundaries so that they can explore. Like we're big into exploration with our students. I never shut down exploration or creativity. In fact, I really try to push that into our classroom and like, okay, guys, now that we have the technique down, I want you to go and like explore, see what you come up with. Like even just in my fundamentals class this week, I said, hey guys, when you guys spar today, I want you to just mess with the bottom half of your gi, the tail of your gi. I want you to like see how you can wrap it around people, how you could choke somebody with it. What can you do with it? Just get familiar with it, even though you know nothing about it. So I like giving some of that kind of freedom, but also obviously with some constraints to it too, to make sure that everybody's being safe and not like, just ripping each other's heads off too.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have like a formal curriculum in your academy, or is it kind of based on what you see each class and then kind of build off of it?
So we say that our curriculum is living and breathing, which means that every test is going to be a little bit different than the one before, because they're all individuals. So if you have a young 20-year-old guy and, you know, a 60-year-old guy, we want to make sure that both of them are getting the proper test, right? So we have our set curriculum for white belts, blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, black belts. And then, like I said, within that, each test is unique and special within its own right.
Yeah.
Do you guys test for belts?
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
And
Oh, okay.
and there's written, there's the physical test.
And it's different for each belt level too. Like I like and here's the thing, like and this will be a perfect example. I never tested for a belt until black belt. Every one of my other belts was a time based in the sense that, like, not time based like you got so many classes and so you got your belt, but my instructors recognized my skill level and said, okay, you're a purple belt, you're a brown belt. But as you know, I was a brown belt for 13 years too. So, and I feel like what really slowed me down in there, part of it was like not having like a defined curriculum. And then I finally ended up in a school for a few years that had a really defined curriculum. And I was very resistant to it at first. Like, oh, I got to learn all this stuff. What do I have to know all this? Like, I know all this stuff, but I didn't in the way that I really needed to. So when I really buckled down and learned all of like the jiu-jitsu self-defense and like how to teach an armbar in a very specific way, or how to do arm bars, how to do triangles, everything like in very specific ways versus like the Mike Bidwell way, or the way that like I like to do it, versus like what are the 4 steps of the technique. That really helped me as a student, like really being tested on that. So when we open up our own academy, I thought it was really important for our students to get a complete jiu-jitsu education. And what that means is like this, you know, as a white belt, learning how to defend yourself against a person on the streets, all of the, you know, headlock escapes, bear hug escapes, all of that stuff, plus all of, you know, jiu-jitsu on the ground, the stuff that we all love to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we do, you know, have a test on everything.
Yeah, I recently had a buddy who left his first academy, and one of the things that like really bugged him is he's been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 years. They didn't do stripes, and so he was like trying to gauge like how close am I to my blue belt. And so he asked the person that he does his privates with, and he's all like, "Hey, like what needs to be done? Like what do I need to do to earn my blue belt? I've been doing it for 3 years. I do privates every week, blah blah." He said, "Oh, you just keep showing up." And he's like, "I'm a teacher. Imagine you tell your students, how are you going to pass this class? Just keep showing up." He's like, there's no way that it should be that. I should be able to know what I need to do and accomplish in order to get promoted. So I like that you guys have that, because I tested for my blue belt. It was more of, there was no written, but it was, all 4 of us got on the mats, and then they just Shark Tank through, and our instructor was like, "Hey, I want you to show me 5 escapes from the mount." And then we show 5 different escapes and whatnot. And so it was a lot of like exploring and then kind of like doing my own thing. But I talked with Roy Dean, and you know, he has a very like rigid test, right? It's like I was talking to one of his black belts, and he had to show 150 different techniques for his black belt. And I was like, I don't even think I could remember 150 different techniques.
And you can see the value in that. And here's the thing that I've really noticed, and I think you're saying this right now. When you go through something, you feel like you earned it, right? You feel good about your blue belt. You don't have you don't have imposter syndrome. People typically get imposter syndrome in jiu-jitsu is because they got promoted in that other way, where they just kind of, I felt that way when I got my purple belt. I was like, really? Am I really a purple belt? I don't know. Do I really? Because I know that dude, I roll with him, and that dude is crazy good, right? But when you actually go through an entire test, and you go through like a Shark Tank, and you have to roll against all these people, and it's a high pressure situation, and then you get through it and you overcome it, you feel good about yourself. And it's not like an empty, fake, false confidence. Like you actually went through something. Like on my black belt test, how long did I have to roll for?
An hour and a half.
So I rolled an hour and a half. And at the school that I was at the time, it was a huge school, big MMA school. People came from like every county. There were probably 100 people on the mat. How long were the rounds?
A couple minutes.
They were like 2-minute rounds. So it was the worst kind of rounds ever.
Just go.
People just jumping on me and just killing me. Yeah. Like it was horrible, dude.
That's how
like,
ours was.
Black belts, white belts, people I'd never even seen before who didn't give a shit about my personality or who I was. They just wanted to freaking kill this guy testing for black belt. But the point of that is going through that like felt great at the end of it. Like it wasn't great in the middle of it. It sucked, but I would have never given up. But I'm thankful that I went through that, because I feel like that pushed me to become a better black belt, pushed you to become a better blue belt now. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that is important. I think people really like going through something. I think it just brings out the best in you. I've never had someone go through a test and like fully break. I've seen people get close where you're like, oh shit, I hope he's going to make it. But I've never seen someone die and have to walk out. Everybody gets through it. And with our students, we even have like, we let them know. Like, I have a guy testing for purple belt in August, and he knows that. Like, I tell him, you're going to be testing in 4 months from now. So we need to start getting ready. And what I'll do is I'll do little drop-ins with him and just check in on him, little checkpoints along the way to see where he's at. And if there's something like flagrantly sticking out where I'm like, that piece of curriculum looks messed up, you need to fix that. I want to look at that in a week from now and see it again and make sure it looks good. And so we're tracking them even up into the test. So at least at that point, I know curriculum-wise, they're going to pass. The rest of it now is all in their hands. They got to be able to do the curriculum on the test, but they've got to be able to get through like the physical test. And leaving that in their hands is a powerful thing, because it's going to make them a better person now to have to deal with that and get through that. And, I think it's good for them.
Do you ever feel like your background in the military kind of like shaped how you view teaching and how you view jiu-jitsu now? Because to me, it, like we learn very structured in the military. Even when you mention the people lining up each way, it reminds me of rows and ranks. And when you're standing to like mustard, you know what I mean? I'm like sitting there and I'm thinking, like, does that ever play into it, or is that just like a byproduct of just how you teach?
Probably to a degree. I think it's kind of my personality. I have that weird, because I teach kids classes too. And the kids know me, like, I can be the goofiest, playful, like throwing dad jokes at them. They walk in the door. Sometimes I'm talking on my banana phone, and I'm like, yeah, this is Apple's biggest competitor, by the way. Right, like that. Good dad joke. Feel free to use it. Right. So I'm all about like the jokes and silliness, but I'm also a very disciplined instructor too. And I think that, probably goes back to being in the military. Like, I like it a certain way. And I think instilling a sense of discipline in young adults is a really important thing. I think it helps people. I think it'll make them a better person. And, so I think that's part of me, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as a jiu-jitsu family, how do you feel that jiu-jitsu has strengthened your family as like one? Because I know when my son and I do it together, going through, I always talk about this, going through hardship with your family, just like me and my son have a really good relationship, especially when we train, because we're going through difficult tasks together and we fail together. Then we roll together and we have fun and whatnot. Do you guys feel like your family has benefited? I mean, this is obviously yes question, but how else do you feel like your family has benefited from being like a jiu-jitsu family and all of you being grown on the mats together?
So I'll give the example of our 18-year-old daughter. She was homeschooled all of her entire life until COVID, like the end of COVID. So she started high school when she was 15 years old. And up until that point, she was homeschooled, so like just to help adjust to our jiu-jitsu lifestyle. And like having her be able to now graduate high school, she's going into college. That is like what we want for our children, to be able to have a mental resilience, an emotional maturity, and a physical discipline and fortitude. But I couldn't wish anything better on anybody's children. So, and of course, like for what that does for a marriage and for you as parents and individuals, it's wonderfully comforting. I appreciate all of the different gifts that jiu-jitsu has given me individually and us collectively as a unit, as a family, and not just us, but I see it, I've seen it for years in families who train. There is a difference when there's a family member, and the more you see it, the more difference it is when you're able to experience life's hardships together through the lens of a martial artist. It helps you perceive differently.
Yeah, and I think too, allowing your children to, like, when they're doing jiu-jitsu, like allowing them to train, and you can't do it for them. You have to sit there and watch your kid sometimes get his ass kicked, right? Or get armbarred or get choked or like lose. And there's nothing you can do about it, but he has to learn how to deal. You can talk through it, you can bring it up, but mostly at the end of the day, he's going to have to work through that on his own. And that is so empowering as a parent to give them that space and that little bit of a leash to like, hey, and because you respect that too as a parent, you're like, dude, I know exactly what he's feeling right now. I just had that happen to me yesterday too. And so you can both kind of relish in that like, yeah, that's kind of what it is. And then you'll see a point where your kid's going to have a breakthrough and you're going to go, wow, my kid can like defend himself and he can put kids in triangles. That's crazy. My kid knows how to do this and that. And I've watched him get to that point. And, I think that can be very empowering as a family, as a dad.
Yeah. Cause sometimes like, you can be bilingual with the family. You can speak Spanish and French. And when you get to speak the language of jiu-jitsu, when your kid comes up to you and they're like, yeah, I got this new move or this way to do this choke or whatever, it's the raddest. Like,
yeah.
For sure.
Cool. How does it feel when you guys, Sheena, when you guys are walking down the street and you realize like everyone in this family right now is a straight killer? Like you're like, is that like a proud mom moment? You're like, my kids, my husband, like all of us, like you don't want to mess with us.
It's very unexpected. I mean, I don't. It cracks me up a lot of times. Like
one time we were at like one of those indoor like climbing things, like it's like nets you climb up and ropes and like all this like kind of ninja course stuff, right? And we were there with the kids, and this woman goes, the woman that worked there goes, "Are you guys like a family of ninjas?" And I was like, "You have no idea." She looked at me like,
funny you mentioned that.
Like, you have no idea.
Our neighbors the other day were like, "What are you doing?"
I know, like I'm sitting outside with the kids, and like a mom comes over with her kid, and sometimes I just don't even want to like, I don't know, like it feels always awkward to me. Like, what do you do for a living? We have a martial arts school, like and sometimes it's okay to talk about it. Sometimes I just want to be like, I'm a plumber, I plumb.
Hey, but martial arts are so popular. Martial arts are so popular now. That plumber might be a killer too. You never know. You're like that's the one thing that's taught me about martial arts.
Because whenever you tell someone, they always have a story about a friend or an uncle or a cousin or somebody that does taekwondo, and they're like, hey, and they're a black belt just like you.
Yeah. You're like, that's cool.
Right?
You're like, oh, I did a Tai Chi class one time. Is it similar to that? Yes, absolutely.
Well, just like Tai Chi, dude.
That's okay. My parents are still like, karate. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Karate.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So you guys just wrote a book, right? And one thing that you guys talk about a lot is, like we mentioned earlier, is like longevity in jiu-jitsu. And before we get into your book, how have you guys built that mindset with your kids, knowing that they're going to be on the mats, almost their entire life, or at a young age till 18, 16, or how have you built that longevity into their mindset when they train?
I think part of it is not putting like a ton of pressure on them about it, knowing that jiu-jitsu is going to happen in waves. Like, my son's 14. He's really into dance. He's really into break dancing, and he's that's kind of his thing. So, but he also likes jiu-jitsu. So, he trains a couple days, like twice a week. That's kind of his goal. And I don't put pressure on him to be here more. And I know sometimes it's going to be less because he might have a dance competition or something like that. And sometimes it's going to be more. Sort of, we always treat it like it's an umbrella in your life. We want it to always be there. You don't have to use it every single second of your life. It doesn't have to be in class every second of your life, but we really want you to have it there, for your life.
And just like with adults, like who come in and they're like, this is my sanctuary. This is my outlet. This is my space where I can come and just leave the rest of the world behind. We want our kids to be able to have that same experience with jiu-jitsu and leave our own dogma out of it. So let them always know that they have a home on the jiu-jitsu mats, no matter where they go in the world. They will find friends in the jiu-jitsu community. They will find safety and camaraderie within it. I want them to know that beyond, just this techniques, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I know one problem that I always had with my son, excuse me, is I'd be like, oh, hey, we're going to class. And he's like, I don't want to go. I'm like, you never want to go. But then when you get there, you're so happy you went. Is that something that you had to go through with your kids as well, even though like, you own your academy, they know it's a part of the family? Like, did you still have to battle that, like kind of dragging them to the mats kind of idea?
Well, who doesn't feel like that some days? So first of all,
Amen.
it's okay to, yeah, it's okay to relate. And
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I get it. I feel tired too sometimes. And, you know, I know how important jujitsu is to you. I know how good it makes you feel. So let's go ahead and get you to class. And then afterwards, let's do something together. You know what I mean? Like, let's acknowledge that. Let's talk about it. Let's, give our, like, have those conversations with our kids, because that's something that sometimes we don't even give ourselves or have acknowledged in ourselves. Like, I'm exhausted and I really need something bigger and better in my training right now, or I need some motivation or inspiration. And it's okay for your kids to feel like that too. But if your kids see you on a daily basis investing in your health and your well-being, and knowing that this is like not, it's, you don't question it, right? Like, it's just like we brush our teeth, we go to martial arts class, then they start to realize it's really like the lifestyle, it's a mindset. So it helps your children and you approach not only like the topic but the conversation in a way where we can express how we feel. So it's like, yeah, sometimes you're not going to have a great class, and that might be it too. Maybe they're scared to go to class because they feel like they're going to get their butt kicked or whatever it is, right? We don't always know. So just allowing them to get that off their chest is usually half of it anyways. Just like, oh yeah, you are really tired, I know you don't want to go, I know you don't feel like it, and that's okay. We don't have to feel like it, we're gonna do it anyways. Afterwards, let's do something fun to celebrate you doing it, right? You know,
and maybe addressing like too, like, well, if they're saying like I'm tired, well, let's grab a drink real quick, let's get a bite to eat real quick and see if we can get some energy in your body, and then you might feel different too, right? Like sometimes even as adults we'll get home and we'll say, oh, I'm too tired, but today, are you really that tired? Maybe go drink some water first and get some food, get some good nutrition into your body, and then see how you actually feel. But if you go to class, yeah, you're like, you worked all day and you haven't eaten anything, and now you're expected to go to class and you're dehydrated. Yeah, it's probably going to suck. That's not going to be fun for anyone. So helping yourself, even like planning in on the front end of that, like especially for younger kids, like if your kids are going to class like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, like having them put their gi folded up and ready to go by the door with the belt tied around it, a couple snacks ready for with their gi, their drink there ready, so that way they're like planning on it and they have the right energy for class as well.
I love that idea of setting the tone, right?
Yeah.
And then also just making it, that's where we can really as parents kind of like be the superheroes in our kiddos' lives when they need that extra support and reinforcement to be like, I'm here to help you. I am here to support you in making this decision for your highest good, right? And then I love that idea of like giving them those special things that maybe they wouldn't even think to give themselves, but like, okay, yeah, let's make sure you do have some energy. Let's make sure you get your water bottle, and I'll help you wash your gi afterwards, whatever, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great points too, and I like the preparing, setting the mindset like that way. Because I know a lot of times, like my son will come home and he's had like a long day at school, or he just wants to go hang out with his friends. And class for us is like 6 o'clock at night when we did go together. And so he'd get home and there's that long stretch of like
Yeah.
just like building up to not wanting to go, but
Yeah.
preparing everything beforehand. That way, there's not the I got to go find my gi. Oh, I got to get my belt. Oh, I got to get some snacks. You know what I mean? Like everything's all ready to go. We could just so I think I'm going to use that, Mike.
And I think it's
That's a good
it's
one.
a good reminder for your viewers, for themselves, like our own
Yeah,
self. Like, you know what I mean? If you do making that
very
commitment
true.
to yourself that like these are the days that I do jujitsu, and everybody in your life kind of knows that and everybody respects that. And it's not like on that day you're like, oh, I'm gonna go do this instead. It's like, no, it's like Tuesdays and Thursdays is jujitsu day. And so you have all of your stuff ready to go that way, and you're properly planning for that, experience.
Yeah,
And there's
absolutely.
yeah.
No, go on. Sorry.
I like the idea of making it into like a celebration. Like, let's make sure that he's wearing his favorite rash guard. Let's make sure he has the gi that he likes. Let's make sure that he has a water bottle and the coolest backpack or whatever it is, so that he emotionally, when he mentally thinks about it, he's like, yeah, I want to go there. I'm excited to do this. And it's going to help, not just your kiddos, but like us too. If we do the same thing with us, if we're like, okay, I'm going to invest a little bit in my jiu-jitsu here, it's totally worth it. You like when you have your favorite gi on or whatever, right? The best.
Yeah, and like for parents too, like this is a good like public service announcement for all the parents out there who have young kids that do jiu-jitsu. You should never put a gi over top of school clothes for class. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've seen like a pair of jeans.
Is that a collared shirt?
Trailing, collared button-up shirt, and then a pair 100%. Of jeans like trailing out the bottom of the gi pants. And I think about that. I'm like, could you imagine that parent going to the gym with their work clothes underneath their workout clothes?
Yeah.
And then working out, right? So, like the point there is like make it comfortable, because the gi's heavy. Like if you don't train and you're a parent, a gi's kind of a heavy thing to put on your body for the first time. So you don't want to have a bunch of crazy layers under that. You want like a nice rash guard or like some light clothes under that. Nothing heavy, no t-shirts, no collared shirts, no ties, no bow ties, none of that. Right? I've seen it all.
I did like a solo episode where it was kind of like ways to like remotivate yourself to go back to training. And one thing I mentioned in there is like buying yourself like a new gi or like a new piece of like jujitsu gear. Because then you're like, man, I kind of really want to go try this out. Like I just got this brand new mouth guard. I kind of want to go get, elbowed in the middle of something to see if it works. It can really like re-spark that like willing to like want to go jump on the mats again. Because I know when I get a fresh gi, I kind of want to like go show it off. I'm like the first day of school, you're like got all your fresh stuff on.
You can always tell when someone walks in with a new gi and they kind of come in real slow and like, and then they open up the inside and you see all the artwork and they're like, I gotta tie it now.
Well, because it's invigorating all of our senses. We see it, we visualize it, right? When we think about it, when the way it feels, the way it smells, that fresh gi, right? We want to break it in, all of that. So it's wonderful for your brain, your reticular activating system, when it does think of jiu-jitsu to, bring all those happy little bits and pieces into it. So it associates all good things with your training.
I completely agree. So let's talk about the book. What you guys just wrote a book. It just came out. How has that process been up to release?
You want to talk about it? It's been a journey. No, so the book is the BJJ After 40 Survival Guide. It's actually going to be out probably be out by the time this episode comes out, because it'll be out by next week. It was a year in the making, writing it. And that's one aspect of writing a book. And then there's the entire other half of it, which is getting it published and getting it out and getting it formatted. And that's something we've been working on the last few months. And that was another journey, just getting the book now actually made and having a tangible book. So we're really excited about it.
It's fun to get to use your jiu-jitsu in other areas of life. So just like you can be curious about learning a new move, we now got to learn how to be writers.
Right. And like, how do you put out a book and all of that? So that was, kind of, I tell people now, like I could write a book on how to put out a book. It was like that much like learning curve and figuring it out and how to do it. Like I wouldn't consider myself a writer before. I put blogs up and I put articles online before. But as far as like, being a writer, I'm not a trained writer. I didn't go to school for writing. But I think I've always liked writing, and I liked the process of writing. It was really fun actually getting into like that flow state and like putting my thoughts on paper. And I feel like this book has everything in it for the over 40 jiu-jitsu practitioner. Literally everything from, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, the most exciting part to me of the book was that just like with BJJ After 40 in general, we wanted it to be something that was bigger than us from the very beginning. We asked about a dozen contributors who are going to be survival experts in the book. And it's amazing how they all came together and
put together really amazing content. I think everybody's going to be blown away by the contributors of the book and the content of the book. It has literally, like I was going to say, everything in it from recovery, like tips on recovery, how to sustainably train into your 40s, or like I'll be 55 in 2 weeks. So, how to train into your mid 50s and beyond that. So it has all of the recovery stuff, all of the stuff for off the mats, how to live a jiu-jitsu lifestyle.
And we tried to make it really easy to read so that it's because it's a big book, right? So we tried to make it so everybody could easily take one little section and really gain some knowledge, or just dive right in, right? So if you have a couple of minutes, pick it up. You're really going to get something from it. And that's what we tried to do with this book.
And the other thing that's kind of cool is that it has a multimedia aspect to it. So there's QR codes throughout the book that you can scan and take you to videos that expand on the topics in the book. So if you're like me, like I have a hard time sitting down and reading a book. I'm an Audible kind of guy, and we'll actually have this out on Audible here in the future as well. So I'll have that audio version of it. But if I'm going to read, I love the idea, like with our book, of having the multimedia aspect and taking a break from the reading for a sec and then watching some videos too. Or maybe you're like you're at work or somewhere and you just want to check out a couple of the videos too. I think it's a great addition to the book.
Mm-hmm.
What was that feeling like? Did you guys got a physical copy, right? Like a pre-release to make sure it was all good to go and everything like that. What was that like, opening up the package and seeing like the hard work in your hands right then?
Pretty trippy, honestly. I always felt like I always wanted to write a book my whole life. Yeah, but I was a reader kind of growing up. I like to read a lot. And I always thought it would be really cool to write a book on martial arts someday, but I never felt like I'd have that opportunity to do it. And so to actually see like your thoughts in your head on actual paper in a physical book is pretty trippy. Like it's pretty trippy. Like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. It brought a few tears to my eye, but and especially because the sense of accomplishment of what it took to actually make that happen with a family and 4 kids and running a business. And like Sheena said, taking our jiu-jitsu and applying it to like writing a book. Like, how can I write a book right now? How am I going to learn this next move? Well, I'm going to break it down into digestible chunks, 4 steps. How do I write a book? Well, I'm going to do it like 1 page at a time. And, literally like my 4 steps of jiu-jitsu and my secret sauce. That's how I'm going to apply that same practice to my life. And so what I've learned from the book is that, anybody could write a book, but not everybody's going to, and it's hard. And it is a worthy accomplishment, and I wish it upon anyone that if that's something, and really just anything in your life that feels like unaddressed. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be anything in your life that you're like, I just someday want to do this. Well, man, someday is going to go by. I'm going to turn 55 in a couple weeks, and it goes by quicker than you think. And if there's something like that you want in your life, bring it into that physical manifestation now. And it can be as simple as like the way that we approach this book is we would attack it in like little 25-minute increments. I'm going to go write for 25 minutes, or I'm going to go edit for 25 minutes, or she's going to go write for 25 minutes, and I'm going to go hang with the baby so that she can write for a little bit. And we just kind of bounce that back and forth for the last year. And at the end of it all, we got a book out of it.
Sheena, did you ever have those moments where you're like doing something and you're like, this would be great for the book, and you like run to Mike, you're like, listen, I have an idea, like we need to write this down? Do you ever have any moments like that during this whole process?
I think our everyday existence is like that with each other in jiu-jitsu. We're constantly like, this move or this technique or this idea or this real world topic is happening and how it relates to jiu-jitsu. I mean,
and it's kind of cool. Like, honestly, having like a black belt wife is pretty dope. Like having someone that and she wasn't always a black belt wife. I've been a black belt since 2014. She got her black belt in 2021. Mm-hmm. And she's going to get her first degree actually in a couple weeks. Anyway, but so there was a long time where she was like, there was a point where I was a brown belt. She was a white belt. I was a brown belt. She was a blue belt. I was a brown belt up until, so for a long time it was like this. And then in the last few years, it's kind of gotten to here now where I feel like I can have like, black belt conversations and we can talk about jiu-jitsu and, all of that. So it's pretty dope to have a wife that's like on that into that same thing that I'm into, and I can share my love for it with her, and she can express it back to me as well. It deepens our relationship for sure.
And so when you're now allowed to write a book and give that to other people, It's spectacular. And we hope that it'll grow 100-fold now, being able to be in that form. So
that was actually one of the hardest parts, was trying to get to the end of it, because it's constantly like, well, I'd like to add this to it now. Or I'd like this to it. And you're like, at some point it's got to stop, and it's got to, like, the book's got to be done, and we can't add any more stuff.
Yeah, it can't be 1,000 pages.
Right. And it's it's a pretty good
It could
book.
be,
Thick
but
book. Yeah. Yeah, right. A trilogy.
So how did you guys decide what's going in and what's not going in? Was it like a collaborative thing? Was there some things Mike wanted in and Sheena wanted in, and then some things that neither one of you wanted in, but they made it in? Like, how did that work?
It's kind of really organic. Like, there wasn't a lot of, like, I don't think there was really anything that we were like, we don't want. I think the way that we kind of set it up was we made a list of all the things that we thought that would be like super, super important to cover in the book. Like, that if we only could write, I looked at it like, if I could only write one book, and this was it. If I'm going to die tomorrow, and this is the one contribution that I get to leave to the jiu-jitsu community, I want to feel like I left everything in there. So there wasn't really anything that we were like, no, we can't do this, we can't do that. I think we pretty much got everything that we could in there. And I think it just kind of organically came together that way. There wasn't any real disagreements or anything like that. It was more like, we did it.
Yeah, like if there was something that Mike really wanted to speak on, he would write. If there was something that, like, he specifically was like, you have more...
you're more comfortable with you talking about this, and I feel like super, like, passionate about talking about this one thing, so could I write that? And then there was parts where she would go back and just edit everything anyhow, so it definitely has a little bit of us in everything, no matter
and vice versa,
and vice versa,
right?
We edited in her stuff too, so it it just is fluid in that sense.
So yeah, we tried to express not just our perspectives. A lot of people's perspectives and what they go through for how they can keep doing jiu-jitsu, right? Which is the most important thing about this book to us, is that they can use this information to keep doing what they love,
and
right?
Go back to it over and over again, like a reference guide. And having, like, the experts that were involved too is pretty cool, because they have their own perspectives, and some of them have some great stories and some great experiences that are very applicable to a lot of people. So I'm excited to share all of that. I think it's going to be really great for everybody in the jiu-jitsu community, especially the over 40s and all the guys that are under 40 that can start to learn this information now. And that would be the real hack. That would be the real code breaker, is to practice this in your 30s so that you set the tone for yourself.
I remember
you don't end up being one of those guys that's like, I started jiu-jitsu at, some guys might have started at like 30, and all of a sudden they're like 40 years old, but the first 10 years they wrecked themselves. And yeah, maybe you're a black belt now, but you can't, like, do all the cool shit, and your body's a wreck. And that's not what we want. We want you to be able to be a black belt and experience all the fun stuff now, and do all the cool stuff with your body, and make it a sustainable practice.
And I'm a testament to that, because I was 25 when Mike started BJJ After 40. He's 15 years older than me. So from a younger age, I was experiencing BJJ After 40 and what it takes to not just maintain, but thrive in your body in your 40s and now into your 50s.
And have babies and have twins and like all that too.
Yeah, and now I'm in my 40s myself. So it's like, I sure do appreciate somebody acknowledging that, and like, hey, there's a way and there's a path, and this is a conversation that we should start having at 25, at 35, not just after 40.
Right.
Sheena, did you throw like some things in there for like the female demographic about training as a woman into your 40s?
Yeah, there's a menstruation and menopause section, just a little chapter in the book, because you deal with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about it.
Well, I can speak on the menopause part, but I can speak on the fact that women are going to have, like, regardless of how they deal with it, they're going to have to deal with it. And they usually deal with it alone and in private, and on top of everything else, and with their training. Well, yeah, getting to speak on that in the book is wonderful for women to get to know, like, how they can do this because they can. So yeah, I appreciate getting to do that too.
Who was the better writer? I'm going to spark a little bit. Who was the better writer?
I don't know. Like, I think we both have our own. I'm probably the worst with like typos. Like, here's what you notice that when you go back and edit, how many words you leave out, just missing words. Like, you're like, how did I miss words? I think Sheena's an awesome writer.
Yeah, Mike's a really wonderful writer. So I don't know.
And I think we both just enjoyed the process of writing and didn't realize how much we liked writing. I was like, wow, I like it as much as jiu-jitsu. And writing about jiu-jitsu is like, the dopest thing ever.
And as, again, like, Mike's my instructor. So getting to do this on like a level is like, yes, I'm a student, but also like on the level of like my instructor is interested in putting something out. So getting to help him is really special for me as a student, so I've really appreciated getting to see and experience him write and just share jiu-jitsu in this whole new way with me like I haven't had before.
That's awesome.
No, that's super cool. I'm super excited for you guys. Congratulations on the book. I can't wait for everyone to see it. I will be purchasing it, even though I'm only 34. It's like I'm definitely going to be. Mike, after my last conversation, Mike put it in my head. He's like, you should be training for after 40 right now. So now I think about that. Like now I'm like eating healthier. I'm working out more.
Good,
I don't
nice.
train nearly as hard. You know what I mean? Like, so now I'm like, Mike planted that in my head, so I appreciate that. So,
good man.
But if people want to follow you guys, where can they find you at?
So BJJ After 40, the number 40, like, on social media. You can go to BJJ After 40, the number 40 again.com. Also on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all that. Yeah, we're there.
Perfect.
And then they can look next week. They can start looking on Amazon for our book. Yeah.
Heck yeah. So Mike already knows I like to ask the same question every single time before I end the episode. Sheena, here's your turn. If you could give one piece of advice to a brand new white belt, what would it be?
Wow. Personalize it. Make it your own. No matter what. Take it and no matter what you receive, turn it into the perspective that it's for your highest good and turn it into a way to serve your jiu-jitsu.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today. I'm super excited for this and another great conversation. You guys are fantastic. You inspire me. I can't wait to get my wife in. Maybe one day we could be a black belt couple too.
Yes. Yes.
Totally.
So thank you guys so much for listening. Watch home. Go make sure you go check out Mike's book, Mike and Sheena's book. Go check him out on social media. And remember, no oil checks here. Peace, guys.
Peace.
All right.